So I'm usually not the kind of person who likes to wear messenger bags, predominantly for the reason of the one-sided weight distribution of all of the stuff that is inside the messenger bag weighing on just one shoulder, right? So I prefer to wear backpacks, especially when it comes down to carrying all of my work essentials. Therefore, if I would carry a messenger bag, they would be around the not bigger than 9 liters capacity, which for my personal use case usually is not enough, because I like to carry my mechanical keyboard, the Evergoods cap 2 liters with all of my essentials like chargers, SSDs, cables, mouse and stuff like that. So those items alone usually don't fit well inside a messenger bag, and therefore I prefer to wear a backpack and something that is at least 15 liters in capacity and therefore has a specific weight that I would prefer to be distributed on top of both of my shoulders. So I either go with a sling bag that is 2 liters, max maybe 4 liters for everyday carry, but those are too small to carry all of my stuff, or go with a bigger backpack. Now, today I wanted to carry some of my camera gear, so not only the DJI Pocket 3 but also my small little micro four thirds camera, which is the Panasonic GX85, and I also packed my extended EDC with my Boo Boo kit in here, which is in the Pioneer Carry Global pouch that has like my charger, a power bank, but also essentials like eye drops, ibuprofen, so Boo Boo essential items. But I also get, and that is really cool, a buddy of mine who is a videographer but also a photographer. He will lend me his Leica Q, I think it is the Q3. He will lend me that for a week because I always wanted to try it out. I will never buy a Leica, but he was so kind, or is so kind enough to lend me that camera to check out for a week. And yeah, I wanted to carry this bag because I will have those 2 cameras plus the Pocket 3, and all of those 3 items would not have fit into a sling bag, and the backpack would have been too big. Essentially, these types of bags are a good middle ground for those days where you don't need to carry a lot of stuff for work, but also need a little bit more space when the regular sling bag is not enough. So this is the Modern Dayfarer V2 Sling, a 10 liter, I wouldn't call it sling bag. I personally would rather consider this somewhat in line of a messenger bag. I know that with 10 liters, it's right in the middle of what people would either consider a sling bag or a messenger bag, but for the size that it is, I rather put it into the category of being a messenger bag. Still, this is too small for an actual messenger bag, which is why I kind of say it kind of is in the middle of sling bag to messenger bag, because while it has a sleeve in the back that you could assume to be a laptop compartment, it wouldn't fit my old 15-inch MacBook Pro Intel edition. So this sleeve is rather for a tablet like an iPad or whatnot. I did not use that because I don't have an iPad, and because I have my Samsung Fold 5, I usually don't carry a tablet, but in this slot I did carry a small little travel Bluetooth keyboard. So that slot is pretty great for, let's say, slimmer items. Before I continue going over all of the stuff that I put inside, let's go over the outside first. Like all of the Modern Dayfarer bags, you initially see the design language. This looks very akin to the Modern Dayfarer backpack. You have a fitlock buckle. I don't really like fitlock buckles. Not necessarily all of them. I love the V-buckle fitlocks because they are much easier to open and close. And with this one, what I don't like with it, you kind of need to slide them to open them up. But if the bag is very fully loaded, there is not much space to get to the bottom of the fitlock to kind of slide it open. And then if you aren't able to grab it properly, see that? If your fingers are a little bit slippery, it's kind of difficult to open up, especially if there is a lot of tension on the fitlock. because there are a lot of items inside. Therefore, I don't really like fit locks at the moment, or for a while now, because either they open up way too easily if you utilize them on the shoulder strap of a sling bag, making it a high risk that you accidentally open the fit lock and then the sling bag falls to the ground, or they just close willy-nilly on you. For instance, if you have fit lock like in the Boundary Supply errand backpack in the laptop slot, there was a fit lock that always accidentally closed, and then whenever you weren't finished to kind of put your laptop in, you always had to open it up. And yeah, I do not really like fit locks. I thought in the beginning they were cool, but for me personally, only the V-buckle style fit locks are the ones that I personally like. Then going on back, you have a good grab handle here, which makes this bag also be able to be used in a somewhat briefcase mode if you detach this shoulder strap. The shoulder strap has some nice metal, I'm not sure how you call them. They are a little bit, remind me a little bit of the G-hooks that Heimplanet utilizes, but these are really proper carabiners. Really good hardware. The shoulder strap overall is comfortable. It has a good padding. It doesn't have any strap ends, so you can really neatly organize this. It has this pivot system where it attaches to the bag, making it overall, in theory, very comfortable to carry. However, why I personally do not like messenger bags in general, or any sling bags bigger than, I would say, 3 liters capacity, I do not like to go over that, is because it is a one-sided weight distribution. So I'm currently testing carrying around the Modern Dayfarer with all of the things that I previously mentioned while walking here now with my dog Woody. And while it is comfortable to carry this bag with everything that is inside, so 2 cameras basically, extended EDC and more, just like I mentioned previously, I don't like having a heavy messenger style bag because of the one-sided weight distribution. Again, it is okay and comfortable to carry with all of the stuff inside, but still I would rather wear a backpack. Overall, the bag looks amazing. I think this is a really cool design language. It looks cool while still being professional to be able to use this in a work environment. But as you can see here, if it is very fully loaded, it is kinda, yeah, it doesn't look that neatly. Furthermore, here on the side, this is a flap down closing. If you aren't careful, there is the potential that there is a small gap where water can get inside. So I just got back from a delicious lunch eating some ramen here in Hamburg, and my buddy just gave me his Leica Q3, and everything that I just previously showed you fits together with the Leica Q3, plus he gave me a little pouch that has some charging cables and stuff like that. All of that fits quite well into this Modern Dayfarer Sling or messenger bag. The only thing that I kind of need to acknowledge, that I also already acknowledged in the Modern Dayfarer backpack, this opening, if you are not careful and if this is very fully loaded, all of the items kind of push against these side walls, and when you close the flap, then there is a gap on both sides, or on at least one side depending on how you pack it, where water can kind of rain inside. And if you have such an expensive camera like this Leica Q3 inside, why is this the Q3? It's a Leica Q. I'm not sure if it's which version it is. If you have an expensive piece of equipment inside that bag where water kind of rains into the sides, yeah, that is a bummer. You need to be really careful about that. Now, as mentioned in the introduction, I was fortunate enough for a buddy to lend me his Leica Q, and I tested it, and to test it properly, I also wanted to carry my personal camera to kind of, let these cameras compete against each other. So now let's go over what I have inside first. I wanted obviously to test it properly. So I packed my Pioneer Global pouch in here, which is my extended EDC and my boo-boo kit in one, meaning I have a power bank in here, charger, cable, but also ibuprofen, band-aids and stuff like that. Things that I don't necessarily need always, but it comes in really handy if you have it with you. So I always pack this in my backpacks, in this case this messenger bag. Oh, by the way, if you want to support this channel and you want to get any of these items, I will put affiliate links in the description below. With those you won't pay more, but you will support this channel with a small kickback of that sale, and if you do so, thank you very much. Inside the main compartment you actually, besides the huge space for the main compartment, you have two slots. In one of the slots I put in the Pioneer Global pouch, in the other slot I stored my DJI Pocket 3, which is currently recording me. This is just the case, just to illustrate where it was inside the main compartment. Then a small pouch that my buddy lent me where the chargers and batteries are inside. Then the camera that I was just talking about, the Leica Q, which is an amazing full frame camera. But did it actually compete with my Lumix GX85 in Micro Four Thirds camera? Okay, it has been a week since I was able to test this Leica Q, and I just wanted to give you a couple of my thoughts. If you're not interested in camera gear, you can skip over with the chapter markers. However, I have some final thoughts that are maybe interesting to you as well, even if you're not interested in cameras, but it's more in line of, are expensive items worth it, using your stuff that you already own and stuff like that. So yeah, maybe it will still interest you. For those of you who don't know, I personally have always been shooting with the Micro Four Thirds camera because I like the smaller form factor. So if you just look at them side by side, you can clearly see that a camera with the full frame sensor compared to a camera with a Micro Four Thirds sensor is bigger. Not by much if you just look at it here, but if you compare the lenses, you can see that full frame cameras will need to utilize bigger lenses, especially with cameras that have interchangeable lenses. This is an interchangeable camera system, so all of the lenses that I can put on here are much smaller than the counterparts for full frame cameras. On this camera, the Leica Q, you cannot change the lens, but that is by design. I don't know the exact price of this camera, but it is much higher than my Micro Four Thirds camera and most cameras that you usually see. This is a premium segment of cameras, and compared to other cameras with fixed lenses, so meaning lenses that you cannot replace, so it would compete with the Fuji X100 series for example, or the Ricoh GR series. So in comparison to those cameras, or the old Sony RX1, which is discontinued unfortunately, so with those cameras, this would be a much higher price tag. So I wanted to try this camera out, not because I want to buy this camera, but rather to kind of see, how does the bigger sensor compare to the smaller sensor that I got? How is the shooting experience? And that is actually pretty important for my verdict on this camera. And yeah, would it be actually worth it if I would buy this? Again, I'm not in the market to buy this new camera or this Leica Q camera, or more specifically a new full frame camera. I am contemplating about getting a new camera, but it probably will not be a full frame camera. More on that just in a minute. So I shot a couple of times with this camera for this whole week, and I was obviously, it's not my camera, and I'm very, if you're watching this, thank you so much for lending me this camera. It's not my camera, and I will give it back at the end of this week. And I was hesitant to carry it everywhere because it is expensive, it's not mine. But the times that I shot it, I was really looking forward to kind of compare these two cameras. So which is why the Modern Dayfarer messenger bag was amazing for that. I was able to carry both cameras and always shoot two pictures, one with the Leica, one with my Lumix GX85. So you can now see those pictures side by side. I'm not gonna put labels on there which picture is from which camera, so comment below to let me know which camera, A or B, you liked better, and then I will tell you at the end of this segment which camera was which picture. And when I looked at the images, and these are heavily edited, and I personally, I don't like camera reviews that only show you the raw pictures, because yes, that is a very scientific way to kind of evaluate the image quality of the camera, but for me it's a little bit boring. I rather show you what I can make with these pictures. And when I put them into Lightroom and edited the pictures to my liking, I was really surprised, honestly, how close the images actually were. Yes, you can there are some tells where you can kind of see which camera took which picture, and I'm not going to tell you what are those tells because I really want you to tell me which pictures do you like better. And once I edited them, I noticed almost no image quality difference, at least not to a degree that would warrant that big of a price difference, and more importantly, the difference of the sensor size. Granted, I made all of those pictures during daylight. Probably the difference will be much more noticeable if you go in low light, and that is definitely a benefit that full frame has. Full frame has a bigger sensor, therefore a bigger lens, and therefore more light can go into the camera or hit the sensor to give you much better low light performance. That is physical limitation of smaller sensors. So just from what I can get out of the camera, and especially considering that most of these pictures will be posted on social media or on web, where people look at them on smaller screens, and therefore the differences in details won't be that noticeable. I felt that I do not have that much of a benefit when using a full frame sensor, which was a really cool realization because I was always kind of contemplating, oh, should I go full frame? Is Micro Four Thirds really the greatest sensor for my personal workflow? And now I can say, yes, it is totally fine using a Micro Four Thirds sensor because, and that is the next point that I have with these cameras, that is the shooting experience. Yes, the shooting experience, having this chunkier body and the weight of it is enjoyable. Don't get me wrong. It is cool to have this very high quality piece of equipment in your hand. Everything is metal. It feels solid. Nothing is kind of wobbling. It feels really good to shoot with this. The iCap sensor is great. The display is great. It feels amazing. And with that, I can definitely say it is very enjoyable to shoot this Leica. But all of this heft, this durability, this craftsmanship is much heavier. You can notice it in your hand. It is a benefit to have more weight in your hand. When you're shooting, everything is a little bit more stable. It feels amazing. It feels you have a tool in your hand. Then you get your small little Micro Four Thirds camera, and then you suddenly realize, oh, it's so easy in your hand and everything. This is so cool. But it is definitely much more premium to shoot on a Leica. Totally understand that. But the weight is definitely something that I noticed a lot. And the size, this is not bigger by much, but this will fit in my sling bag. This won't. So you kind of have to balance out what you kind of want in your life and what you kind of want to deal with. And I personally am, for the lack of a better description that is a little bit more flattering to myself, I am lazy. I'm the kind of person that realized really early, or no, maybe a little bit too late, that big cameras are not for me because I bought a big camera back in the days, a big DSLR, and I left it at home because I was too lazy to carry it around. I have the Blackmagic Pocket camera. It's a big cinema rig. I never carry it outside. Then I bought the DJI Pocket 3. I carry that everywhere and I shoot everything with that camera. So for me, size and weight of the equipment that I carry around is really important. So that is why I feel Micro Four Thirds has a huge advantage over other equipment. Lenses are smaller, the body is smaller, and therefore I can just chuck it into my sling bag. And for me, there was, when I bought the Pocket 3, there was a switch in my mind where I thought, I rather have coverage over image quality, meaning I rather shoot a lot of B-roll and shoot at a lot of different places to make the video much more interesting. And I'm okay with the lesser image quality. It's still great, but obviously it's not as great as my cinema camera or as a big DSLR camera like FX3 from Sony, for example, which shoots full frame high quality video. It's obviously not comparable, but still it is very good image quality in that Pocket 3. So with that in mind, that I kind of prioritize coverage, meaning more shots, more locations, more flexibility in what I can shoot because I have that camera with me all of the time, I prefer smaller cameras, and that is why I really love that I was able to make this test, because now I know the image quality of the Leica is great, the image quality of full frame is great, but it's not that much better for me personally, for my personal workflow. It's not that much better than the Micro Four Thirds to warrant the bigger piece of equipment that I have to carry around. So for me personally, I would say the Leica Q is a great camera, but I will stick to my Micro Four Thirds. And that brings me to my, let's say a little bit philosophical verdict about gear or camera gear in general, which is why I said, even if you don't like cameras, maybe stick around, because the older I get or the more I am in this camera gear life, let's say it that way, I notice I have gear acquisition syndrome, short gas, where I always crave new equipment, I always want to buy new stuff, but I got into the habit of putting that item into my shopping cart and then just wait a couple of weeks, and then I notice, oh, I don't need that. And now having the opportunity to test this new camera without buying it really made me realize, just use what you have, Bo. You don't need to buy new gear, just use what you have, and always kind of keep in mind, evaluate, do you really need it, and what is really important. Is it really important to buy the new gear, or is it really important to actually use the gear that you have and actually carry it around? It was also really joy to carry both of these cameras around. Obviously, it was a little bit tedious to carry around the Modern Dayfarer Messenger on my dog walks, but it was cool to kind of have both cameras, just swing the bag around, take both cameras, chuck, and click the pictures and put it back. That was really cool, and just going back into the habit, carry the camera with you so you can take a couple of pictures, and then again reinforcing the idea, this is a small piece of camera, just take it with you. Now, is it okay to buy expensive stuff? And that is the second thing that I learned, and it is yes. It is just the same with me and having a motorcycle, or with someone else buying a Porsche. Some items, you cannot justify them. Why would you buy a Porsche if, let's say, a Volkswagen car, or we have a Skoda, which is a cheaper brand of Volkswagen, or I have a used smart car? If I would buy a Porsche, you could say, why would you buy a Porsche if you already have a very good car at home? These specific items, like the Leica Q, like a Porsche, like a nice mechanical watch, like riding a motorcycle, for example. Yes, some of these purchases aren't very justifiable in relation to what they cost, but sometimes it is okay to kind of treat yourself. For example, my Steinhardt Ocean Titanium watch, I bought that mechanical watch because I had my 10 years as a freelancer, and I wanted to kind of gift it to myself, to make myself proud that I was able to be 10 years as a freelancer. And the same goes with the camera. If you want to buy it, if you want something nice to have, if you want to shoot with a Leica, then go for it. Obviously, don't spend your savings, don't empty out your savings just to buy a Porsche or a Leica camera. But if you have the money over and you just want to treat yourself with something nice, of course, then go for it. Who am I to tell you what to do with your money? I bought a motorcycle. I have a motorcycle. I enjoy it. Probably some of you will say, why do you need a motorcycle? You have a car. But I enjoy it. I like to have items that bring me joy. And if that is some expensive piece of equipment or some expensive piece of watch or jewelry or whatever, or I don't know, Pokemon cards, who am I to tell you what to buy and what not to buy? All I'm saying is, if you enjoy it, if you have the money over, then don't feel bad if you want to buy this more expensive item, if it brings you enjoyment and if it doesn't affect your financial life. But if you already have some pieces of gear and you notice the urge to buy something just because it's new, kind of evaluate. Do you actually need it? Do you actually need to replace what you already have? Maybe that piece of gear, that piece of, for example, I know many people who have awesome motorcycles but really want to buy new motorcycles all of the time, although that motorcycle that they only have ridden it for 1,000 kilometers or whatever, so not much. And I'm sitting here like, that is an incredible motorcycle. Do you really need to buy a new one? So again, if you want to do it, if that brings you joy and you can buy it, go for it. But I would urge you to kind of think about, if you already have that piece of equipment, that piece of item, kind of evaluate if you actually need to get a new one, or if the one that you already have maybe has some life in it and maybe you just forgot that it's a good piece of equipment just because you saw that cool product page with all of the features that potentially you don't really need. That was my rambling all about cameras. Now let's get back to the Modern Dayfarer. So yeah, as you can tell from my short little verdict of these two cameras, I will stick to the Lumix GX85 Micro Four Thirds camera, but this camera is amazing. However, you can see that both of these cameras, no matter how big they are, together they are fairly big. And yeah, just knowing that you can fit this huge pouch, this camera, and then this full frame camera into this bag is amazing. It's a cool bag that has a lot of capacity, lots of volume to carry these items. So I imagine if you don't carry these cameras and you want to utilize this for work and you don't have to carry a laptop because you will be working at the desktop computer at your workplace, this could be an amazing bag if you consider the weight being on just one shoulder. Again, I prefer backpacks because messenger bags have this one-sided weight distribution. I don't really like it that much, just from a comfortability sake. Then you have another pocket up here with a zipper that has two little slots in here to organize small items, for example, chapstick, my wallet. This is the double oak wallet. I really enjoy this wallet a lot at the moment. And the Civivi bolt action pen that... I forgot the name. I always forget this name. This is a complicated name. It's not complicated. It just doesn't get into my head, to be honest. But you also have plenty of space to put a couple of more items in here. I would only store like EDC or flatter items in this pocket because the bulkier the items are in this pocket, the more they will kind of, eat up of the volume inside the main compartment. So for many of my videos you have seen that I was always a huge fan of these small little retro gaming devices. And this has been my favorite so far. This is the Anbernic RG35XX Plus, and I think this is an amazing device. But since the Modern Dayfarer is a bigger messenger bag and I was able to carry a bunch of items like the two cameras that I always mention in this video, this gives me a great opportunity also to test out a bigger gaming device. This is the new Anbernic RG40XXV. The naming scheme of these devices is terrible. Again, as I have a little bit more space in the messenger bag, I was able to carry this around. Obviously, this is not that big, but yeah, just to stay in line with the theme of this video of having a bigger bag and carrying more items, this was a great opportunity to test out this device. It is bigger and therefore I would probably not carry it in my sling bag. Just for comparison's sake, you can see here how bigger this is. Obviously the display is bigger, but more importantly it also has a small little thumbstick here. Overall, I really enjoyed using this, and I think having a bigger screen is amazing. You can basically obviously see more. The clarity felt a little bit better than on the smaller RG35XX Plus, but I'm not really sure if it's actually a better display or it's just about that everything is just bigger on the display. What I really liked about this is due to the fact that it is bigger, it is a little bit more comfortable in your hand, especially considering those bumpers. Granted, I do not use the bumpers very often. You don't need them for many games. I like to play a lot of GBA games, and not all of them utilize these sticks, at least the games that I like to play. For some reason, I really enjoyed playing these CP1 games, one of which is Punisher. I'm not really sure what those games are, but I assume those are these big arcade games. And I was really impressed by the graphics of that game Punisher, and it actually only uses 2 buttons, jump and the B button to punch, and it's a really fun beat 'em up game. Nothing special, really cool for casual gaming. I played it through right on the first play session. It's a fun game, I like it a lot. Having the thumbstick gives you a great opportunity to play PSP games. Obviously I can play PSP games on this, but you would need for some games, for example I tried to play God of War now, and the thumbstick is really great for that. I have seen in many reviews about this device, and I can kind of confirm it, that it is not really an analog stick, but more like a D-pad in the form of a stick. I forgot the terminology about it, but in essence basically has 8 directions: up, down, left, right, and then the diagonals. But it's not really the digital analog stick that you kind of would hope for. From the perspective of a casual gamer, I found it's okay, but having seen a lot of reviews about this device from people who are actually proper gamers and really know the stuff about these devices and playing with them, everyone says that this thumbstick isn't that great. For a casual gamer, it's good enough from my perspective. But yeah, as I said, I only use this for PSP games. For Game Boy Advance, Super Nintendo, didn't need that. So for me, it wasn't that big of a deal. So the pros are bigger screen, better hand feel or handling. Thumbstick is good to have, not necessarily something that I personally would need. And I kept the stock OS on here on my Anbernic RG35XX Plus. I installed MUOS. I really like that OS because it's very simplified and you have cool hotkeys like pressing the menu button and pushing R2 saves your state. With the stock OS you have to push menu, then you go into a menu, then you have to go to save, then you select a save state and then you save. So you have to do a couple of more steps just to save or load your game states. Now, would I recommend this over the smaller form factor? And just like what I said in my camera comparison of the Leica and my GX85, I prefer smaller devices, smaller tools, just for the pure reason that I will be able to carry them wherever I want to go. And having this size difference is not much. This is still pocketable, but I noticed that this is much more fun to carry around and even put in your pants pocket. This fits my pants pocket, don't get me wrong, but it's not as comfortable in your pockets. Therefore, I would rather go with the RG35XX Plus, especially because I won't utilize the thumbstick that much. So having a bigger screen and a bigger form factor for playing is amazing, but I would rather opt for pocketability and being able to carry this wherever I want. I would rather have it with me all of the time instead of having a, let's say, a little bit better experience when playing. So I rather take a little bit less experience due to the smaller screen and not having a thumbstick, but I will be able to have this with me wherever I want to go. Still, if you want a bigger screen, I think this is a cool device and I can recommend it, but if it's between these two, I would go with the RG35XX Plus. And again, if you want to get any of these items in this video, I will put affiliate links in the description below. And if you consider buying any of these and you also want to support this channel, use those links. With those you won't pay more, but you will support this channel with a small kickback of that sale. And if you do so, thank you very much. You also have a hidden quick access compartment here with the key leash. That is great if you want to kind of, protect your wallet in a more hidden compartment, or if you just want to store your keys away from the other items so they don't scratch up the other items, then this is a great place as well. Now, what do I think about this bag? First and foremost, I think it looks amazing. I think this is a really cool look. I kind of like this urban look whilst still looking professional. Okay, you could argue that this looks a little bit boring, but if you want to use it in a professional capacity, I think it is somewhat given to look a little bit toned down in design and colors and stuff like that. So if you want to use this for work, I think this is a great bag if you don't carry a laptop and if you do not have to walk a lot with this bag, because as I said, one-sided weight distribution. I would say I'm a fairly fit person. I go to Muay Thai and boxing at least 3 times a week. I do a lot of jumping rope every day. I would argue I'm a fit person. Still, I do not like carrying weight just on one shoulder for a longer period of time walking around. I don't believe that that is very healthy to your spine. But that's just me. Your mileage might vary. I personally would rather have a backpack if it comes down to, I would say, 10 liters and above. But overall, I think the look is amazing. You can fit a lot of items in here. If you are driving with a car, I think this is also a great bag just for your essentials to work. With the grab handle, you can use it in briefcase mode. If you are someone who works with a tablet a lot, then this is also great. I actually would think this is also a really good personal item when you're flying, so having a carry-on bag, and then you utilize this as your personal item for a tablet that you use for entertainment, then have all your other stuff in here like your camera. So for traveling, this could be an amazing bag. There's obviously no luggage pass through, and I would argue that your grab handle from your rolling luggage won't fit this handle. So I would say you probably will carry this on your shoulders whilst you pull your carry-on luggage behind yourself. Just for comparison's sake, now speaking of flying and using personal item, as I said, I don't like sling bags or messenger bags bigger than a specific, I would say bigger than 3 liters in capacity. I just wanted to give you a short little size comparison. This is the Alpaca Gear, I think it's called Flight Pouch or something like that. This has a 2-liter capacity, and honestly, I really enjoyed this bag a lot, and I did not anticipate to be that excited about this bag. So don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the review of this bag. But just as a small size comparison, 2 liters, 10 liters, you can see how this sling bag is much smaller than its 10-liter counterpart. So just that you see a little comparison. And again, personally, I don't like messenger bags. Personally, if it comes down to carrying heavier items like cameras and stuff like that, so a bag above 10 liters capacity, I would rather go with a backpack than a messenger bag. That being said, if you're looking for a messenger bag and you don't carry that much gear to work, or you want to use a messenger style bag as a personal item when you're flying, and a regular sling bag isn't sufficient enough in capacity for you, then this 10-liter Dayfarer V2 Sling might be your bag, because it is very well made. It has a good capacity. Keep in mind though, this has not a zipper on top, and as I said, I think this is a downside, but something that you can work around. This is also something that I mentioned on Dayfarer backpack. If you close up this bag, this bag is very full, and you aren't diligent enough to close it, then there is the chance that these 2 flaps on the side, and you close it up like this, they kind of protrude to the outside instead of inside and then being protected. There is a gap here on the side, and if you, for example, leave the airport and have to run to a cab and it is pouring rain, then water will get inside your main compartment. So you need to be very careful and diligent when you close this up, that you fold these 2 side flaps to the inside and then close the flap, just to be safe that there is no water getting inside the main compartment. But again, also if you are diligent and the bag is full, some items will kind of poke against this flap and then still somewhat create a gap, or there is a small little gutter where water can kind of flow inside. So that is something that you need to keep in mind with this bag, or in general, I I would say, with bags that have a flap down closing. I prefer zippers on my bags, but yeah, just something to keep in mind. But it looks good, it is very well made, the compartments are great, you can fit a lot of items inside, but messenger bags, not really my cup of tea. So what do you think about messenger bags in general when it comes down to anything above 10 liters? I know they are popular, but I would love to know your thought in regards to the one-sided weight distribution. Do you just don't care if you have, I don't know, 4 kilos of weight on just one shoulder and then you walk around all day? Doesn't it bother you? Do you prefer this over the bag? Because I don't know, what could be your benefits, or why would you prefer a messenger style bag over a backpack? Let me know in the comment section below. Now, if you like the Modern Dayfarer Sling, then you might like the bag as well. Then check out the video up here. And YouTube thinks that you like this video down here. And don't forget to subscribe by clicking the button up here. I see you in the next videos. Thank you very much.